Do you have a stiff shaft? Or maybe a whippy one? Another title for this video could be the type of bar that you're using when you're squatting could be why you have the sticking point that you do. What do I mean? Well, first thing you need to know is that bars are made of different steel, they have different tensile strength, and they have what's called whip. So your traditional powerlifting bar is going to have less whip, meaning it's going to be more stiff than an Eleiko training bar, which is a weightlifting specific bar known for its whip, its springiness. Now, whether you have springiness in that whip, whether you have stiffness in your bar, it could make a difference for how you're doing a squat specifically. So let's just think about this for a second. Now, I'm way over dramatizing this. The actions that you're going to see me doing, it's hard to see, especially under, say, 500 or 600 pounds. The heavier we get in weight, typically the wider the load, the more that bar is going to whip, no matter what kind of steel it's made out of, no matter how thick it is. But just think about this for a second. Let's say you have a springy bar. Now, in weightlifting, when you rack a clean, let's say, and you rack it above crashing at the bottom, what that bar is going to do is as you rack that bar and it forces you into the bottom, the bumper plates, the sides, as the bar bends, it's going to bend down with you and you're going to slow it down to the bottom. Now, every action has an opposite and equal reaction. So as it bends down, it's going to want to come right back up the other way. And proficient weightlifters can time this out so well that as the bar whips back up, they're able to stand up with a little less effort. Now, the problem is let's put that into a back squat, okay? On the way down, you hit the bottom of your squat. Your bar is going to bend around you as you hit that bottom. As you ascend, that bar is going to whip back up, helping you get up. But if you mistime this, what's going to happen is the bar wants to go up, and let's say you don't stand up right away. You don't have a perfect rebound. It's more of a crash and a stand, right? A bounce that some people will call it. That bar is actually going to get ahead of you. So number one, it could go up your back. It could throw off your technique a little bit that way. But what I'm talking about sticking point wise is that bar, as it whips down, again, it's going to accelerate up a little bit. Then it's going to level out and stall. By the time it stalls, it's moving zero. Now, if you mistimed it, it bent around you, it came up, and you tried to catch that bar and it stalls, it's going back the other way, causing your sticking point. Typically, if you're using a whippier bar, you're going to have a sticking point just below or right at parallel. Why? Because that bar is helping you get out of the bottom of that squat, but right around that parallel part, the bar is starting to slow down and you have to take control. Now, on the flip side, a stiffer bar, it's not going to have that kind of whip. So into the bottom, you have to dig yourself out of the bottom and get through the top, through that sticking point that you would normally have with a whippier bar. But your sticking point with the stiff bar might be getting out of the bottom, right? Because as you get into the bottom, the bar isn't helping you at all. It's going down. You're trying to go up against it. As it's still trying to go down, you have to slow that bar down so that it comes back with you because there's no whip to that bar. So here's what I'm putting forward. If you have a tendency to get stuck into the bottom of your squat and that's your limiting factor, maybe you want to try a little bit whippier of a bar. Now, I'm not saying to avoid your sticking point, but it will help you train through that sticking point, right? If that's your sticking point, it's almost like giving yourself a very slight light band to help you get out of that point. Great, it can improve your timing, but a question is, with that stiff bar, why is it so hard? For a lot of people, it's not coming up that's the problem. It's the mistiming of going down and up and keeping your core tight. If you let your core get loose into the bottom, that bar is not helping you stand up. You're going to have a lack of stability, a lack of stiffness, rigidness, and that bar is going to feel extra hard getting you pinned into the bottom. Now, if your sticking point is at the knee, I recommend using a stiffer bar. Why? Because again, of all the things we talked about, you're not getting help out of the bottom, so you may have to reduce the weight a little bit, but you have to really decelerate that weight yourself and re-accelerate that weight, making you stronger out of the bottom of your squat, getting through that sticking point, right? Because the bar's not really slowing down at the knee, it's slowing down out of the bottom. So just some things to think about, right? The type of steel, the type of bar that you're using, whether it's a whippy bar, a stiff bar, it could be the cause of your sticking point. Other technical factors could be at play as well, but keep that in mind. If you're switching your bar type, first off, if you're a powerlifting competitor, do not use a whippy bar within 6 weeks of a competition. Get on your competition style equipment. But let's say you do want to get some benefit from the whip. Great. Maybe you do your 12-week program, 16, 18, whatever week program with that whippy bar, switch back to your stiff and see how it goes. Maybe vice versa as well. A little nuance about powerlifters that do kind of want to take advantage of this. Most likely, if you are even considering what type of bar should I be using, you're doing more than just the typical 3-month program. You're probably doing 16, 18, 20-week programs. So you have time spent in a lot of repetition, some time spent in more strength, moderate repetitions, and then some time spent in your peaking phase, right? Now, some people, depending upon how big you are, you may have as much as 6 or 8 weeks of strength going on. And somewhere in there, you'll have a deload or a pivot. So you'll build up maybe 3 or 4 weeks, come back down for a week, and then build back up. In that middle deload, that's when you're going to want to switch your bar at the latest. Okay, you might switch it before you actually get into the strength and just use it in your hypertrophy. That's totally fine. But do not use a non-competition bar too far out from your competition, because all of a sudden you get on that platform, you put the bar on your back, you hit the bottom, and oh shit, the bar's not helping me.
What?